Hey, Danny.
Yeah.
We have a specific Patreon request, actually, for this. Members of our Patreon, part of our Mob Rules Discord for life after being dumb enough to give us money. And one of them asked for us to mention this in our show notes. So I will for sure go ahead and say that. That is,
okay.
Colin Wingo is dumb.
Yeah, Colin Wingo is dumb.
So dumb. Also, one of my 40k nemesises who I wouldn't say that I have bad luck against him. It's just he makes me make very poor decisions on a frequent basis. Just a face. I get distracted by.
Is it just drinking or like on the table or bounce?
Sure. Yeah. All of the above. Yeah. Okay. I'm like, yeah. But yeah, welcome to Mob Rules. I am John, joined of course by
Danny.
Back for a marathon, third time in 3 weeks. Crazy after last week's bonus Taylor, where Taylor came in and talked to us about the goings on of Warzone Charadon. Where did we settle on that?
It's actually Haradon
with
a hard card on, like
it's hard on Warzone hard on. Yeah. The Book of Rust.
Perfect. Nothing like the old rusty hard on to release some solid.
Really revitalizes my army. Just that rusty hard on that we're getting from that book there. Yeah, kind of going on what's there. Lots of feedback, lots of love for Taylor. Lots of hatred for Skin, which I'm surprised. A lot of people share Taylor's dislike of Skin. So
it's the worst organ, actually. I don't know if you knew that. It's the worst organ.
It is, and also the largest on most people. But yeah, Danny, what have you been up to these past couple of fascinating weeks? We didn't really talk about that last time. Oh my gosh,
dude. It seems like it's been a whirlwind, right? So let's see. So we got the Drukhari book.
We did.
I've been making lists and looking at that from a competitive perspective, which I don't know. It seems pretty good. There's some people that are calling it broken. I think it's a little bit early to say that, especially with like this being the 4th army book released. And like there's been a lot of marine supplements, which are technically other armies really, but like we're talking like maybe out of less than 10 armies. Let's see. Marines, the big three supplements. Oh, Death Watch as well.
Yep.
Necrons, Drukhari, and Death Guard. Sorry, 8. How could I forget, John?
How can you forget?
8. But yeah, so we'll see. They're very good, and they play exactly like you would expect them to. They hit like a sledgehammer. They float like a butterfly. And they shoot up a lot of drugs.
You know, one thing I like about it so far is every army book has played differently, apart from maybe the Marines, where obviously, but each one is very kind of specific in its play style. Like a Drukhari army plays differently than a Death Guard army, which plays differently than a Marine army, which I think is the point.
I mean, I hope so.
So I hope so. And then were the complaints about, this army is broken, and it's just going to be like, this is now the 8th codex in a row that has broken the game and is completely broken.
Cool.
Cool. So like when Death Guard came out, Mortarion with 4 war, that was so broken. Not so much, and then when Dark Angels came out, Deathwing Turret completely broken. Well, maybe that one's a little bit more accurate with like, a couple of the things they can do.
They're really good.
But what we're sort of just seeing is a lot of armies coming out and not a lot of games being played. So when they are played, they're mostly viewed online through very good players playing them. So like, oh man, these are too good. Look at what they can do. Doesn't necessarily mean it's broken.
We'll see how it plays out. I mean, right now they might be overpowered in the meta, but who's to say like what the next book is going to bring? Like AdMech is supposed to be next, I think, is what the rumor engine says.
I believe so. Hopefully.
So, and let me tell you how much a real shooty army loves to play against a real fragile army. So we'll see how that works out for him.
I just hope it doesn't turn into like rock, paper, scissors, hammer, like similar to like early Age of Sigmar, where like if you had one army, you were like with my Night Hunt, I was guaranteed to beat the Sigmarines, but I would automatically lose to the Caradon Overlords because of the way the armies were constructed. That's my only concern when I see like such divergent playstyles and army construction coming through.
Well, yeah, we'll see. I think there'll always be a place for a super fast, fragile army. And if the terrain is good, then the shooting shouldn't be that punishing. But when they do get shots off, it's going to hurt. So hopefully AdMech is kind of a more well-rounded army, which they definitely did that to Necrons. Like Necrons have really solid mid-range assault troops, which is great. I'm very happy about that. But we're looking at a whole army, maybe a whole army redesign. So we'll see how that all plays. Speaking of Dark Angels, which we were just talking about.
Yeah, snuck that in there.
I've been playing Dark Angels and kind of building a Dark Angels list. So I had some attack bikes 3D printed, or just the sidecars for Outrider bikes. So I'm going to use the Heresy Outrider bikes with cool sidecars that are like servitor operated, with some multi-meltas that I have on extra the scimitar pattern attack jet bikes that I have a bunch of extra multi-meltas on those. So I'll be able to make some Ravenwing attack bikes. And then I also have, I bought some Deathwing Terminator boxes, which are really cool kits. I haven't built a bunch of those. I'm a little bit bummed on the options, honestly, because you only get one Thunderhammer and one Chain Fist, and I need like all my guys to have that stuff. So at least I have enough Storm Shields that look cool. So in building those, I'm going to start working on some some Talon Master conversions as well. I think that's probably my next step. I don't really know what I want to do. I think I want to try and combine like a Space Marine. Well, okay, so we talked about Heresy Outriders. Now I'm going to talk about Primaris Outrider. And I'm going to use, I'd like to use a Primaris Outrider bike, like as kind of the base, and combine that with like a Custodes jet bike to make like a land speeder sized Talon Master with like one rider. Just because like the regular Talon Master looks kind of stupid. I think he just looks all bolted on and dumb. So we'll try something to make him a little cleaner, a little slicker, a little faster. But yeah, so in addition to building Dark Angels, playing Dark Angels,
being Dark Angels.
Yeah, true. So let's see. I played one game in person down at the game store. They opened up their tables, so like full COVID precautions. Like literally, we're the only people in there playing a game. Mask wearing required all the time. Gotta sanitize those hands all the time. Anyway, so I played against Mike P. Or Mike Pastillans, as you might know him on Facebook. He does a lot of posting for Demons content. Anyway, he switched to Necrons, and I tried out my Dark Angels. I used a couple of proxies, and he was nice enough to let me use. And yeah, dude, Dark Angels fuck. So I had this one round in that game where first of all, these attack bikes, oh man, did they do good. One squad killed a Menhir with just the bolters.
Oh, Jesus.
And then he re-rolled a save so that it wouldn't die, which was epic. It was super cool. It made me laugh super hard when it happened. And then the multi-meltas managed to take the Silent King down pretty far, and I was able to deliver the death blow with Ezekiel's bolt pistol because it's damage 2, and I just got that lucky 5 to wound and just freaking popped the Silent King off. It was dope. Yeah, I won that game, I think like 80 something to 60 something. So it was like not
pretty
super
close.
Yeah, it was pretty close. I made some mistakes, and I kind of saw where I could play a little bit better next time. And same with Mike. We talked it over at the end of the game. We did a good postmortem. And then I also got to play John Kyo Cullen on Tabletop Simulator for the GT that I'm playing in. That's online for Tabletop Simulator. Obviously, I got to play against the Space Wolves. It was a really good game. John, of course, is just a really good Space Wolf player, and he was able to put me in some moves that I was a little uncomfortable with. If you catch my drift.
Virtual hugs.
It was a struggle cuddle, but he had some plays that would have been really good, except just the dice like shit on him super bad. So every time he kept trying to come back into the game, like his dice would say, "Nah, bro," and he failed 4 plus 2-inch charges at 9-inch. Like he needed 7s to get in, and he failed 4 of them, which was really harsh. And basically, that took the Terminators out of the game and gave me the initiative, to where I could give them voice fights last and then charge them with my Terminators, and they just smoked them. So yeah, big 10-man Terminators versus 10-man Terminators. What is this meta? Who even knows?
So yeah, I'm making lists with like 25 Terminators in it. Just could you imagine like 2 years ago in the 8th, being like, yeah, dude, everyone's list is just going to be Terminators.
Oh man, I can't wait for the Chaos Codex to come out, and there'll be like, and Chaos Terminators to be really good again too. So like, because that's like their elite troops. Like Terminators are one of the elite Chaos Space Marine troops.
Will they be like, you get 1 axe per squad and 1 sword per squad and 1 combi weapon per squad, because that's in the box?
Let's not do that one. Let's do the other thing.
Knocking on wood for that one to not happen. Kidding.
I mean, so on the plus side, like Space Marine Devastators, right, aren't like that.
No.
And they only come with limited options in their box. So hopefully they're not like Blight Lords.
God, I hope so. Well, I hope not, even, because Havocs would be the biggest loser in that.
Could you imagine Havocs with 1 chain cannon?
I can imagine Havocs never being sold again ever in the world.
No fucking shit.
What else have you been up to?
That's honestly about it. Like, personal life has been super busy. Oh, I got my second COVID dose today.
Amazing.
So that's pretty dope. Yeah, dude, I'm stoked.
Mine is tomorrow, which means next time we record, we'll most likely be in person.
Oh, that's crazy. I didn't even think of that. Yeah. That's true. It'll be 2 weeks after that.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Isn't that awesome? I'm very excited for that more than anything else. But yeah, it's been like a busy couple of weeks for me too.
Yeah, what have you been up to, John?
What have I been up to? I've been spring cleaning through my unopened boxes and trying to sell some of it. Because like I'm looking through it and my wife's like, didn't you buy that like this year? And I'm like, well, yeah. But I'm trying to take like an honest look at what I have and what I'm going to use within the next 2 years.
Sure.
And am I going to use a pair of Helverins? Maybe in the future. Probably not within the next 2 years. Not, yeah. So if someone else can get use out of it, then that's all the better. And that can fund my other poor purchases. I also subscribed to the new Warhammer 40,000 magazine that was coming out. What's that called again?
Wait, we can get it in the US?
Oh, yeah. As of today. You should definitely go check that out right now.
Where do you subscribe to that at, John?
Oh, man, that's a great question. But one of our Patreons brought it up in the Discord. Good old Russell.
What a champ.
Yeah, and he received his Hobbit game that I mailed out to him, which I would also never use. You know the worst part about it? Okay, so I was like, yeah, I thought it was like he's had that on search for a while. He was super excited about it. And then so I sent it to him because I'm like, look, dude, I'm never gonna use it. So we shipped it out to him, thanks to the podcast. And then he has to pay $30 import or £30 import tax on it.
What?
Yeah.
Seriously?
For Brexit, he got like a little note in the mail saying he owes £30. I'm like, dude, do I owe you? And he's like, well, I'm getting a Hobbit box for £30. So like it's fine.
I mean, that's pretty good, especially since it's not sold anymore.
Yeah. And again, like just talking to him, like I would rather, like he plays a lot of Lord of the Rings and is a big fan of that system. So I would rather go to someone who's actually going to use it. And then on top of that, Danny, while you were out at another town, I had you pick me up all of the Death Shroud they had in stock.
So one,
which is I'm still. My wife was like, "Are you going to cancel one of the other 2 boxes you have on order from the local store?" And I'm like, "No, I can take 18." And I think when all of those come in and the stars align, I think I'm going to try a game with 18 Death Shroud because I think that would just be hilarious. I think 18 Death Shroud, 10 Blight Lords, and like a character in Poxwalkers, and just screw the support. We're just going all out, just crazy Terminators for the memes. Something I've been talking about in this way is my ability to just have fun with meme lists. Sure. Something else I did, yeah, I really just organized, tidied. We got the new books. I'm very, very excited for the Terminus Est Assault Force. I think that's a really fun way to play Death Guard. I don't think the limitations are crazy bad. Your army's going to have a lot less. Your army's going to have a lot less killing power without kind of plague burst crawlers and dreadnoughts and other things like that. But ninth isn't about killing. It's about holding objectives and scoring points and doing secondaries. And you can build your Terminus Est Assault Force to maximize secondaries and be just pumped full of objectives secured. And it's just like, if most Terminus Est Force lists I'd be making or seeing have 80 to 100 Poxwalkers. If you're spending your time shooting 80 to 100 Poxwalkers, cool. My 25 Terminators are going to come through and just fuck you up. If you shoot the Terminators, cool. My 100 Poxwalkers are going to just hold all the objectives and do all the things. So I think it's a great list. And that Psychic Tree is a little costly on warp charge, but man, is it so good.
Man, those powers are awesome.
So expensive, but man, they are great. So I'm excited to kind of finally get that out and get that going. And outside of that, very little. Been enjoying the new models that have been coming out. Some of the new sisters models, even the one with the weird face, the Judge Dredd
and
sister.
Have you seen that hand?
Yeah, the pose is a little unfortunate. I do enjoy the background of that character though. Like,
yeah, it's really cool. I'm not okay. I don't think the model is as bad as other people are saying. But I think it's fine.
I like the idea of the sisters having a commissar who can look at someone and go mortifier, like, fuck, or like.
I thought it was like a chaplain.
Yeah, well, and they decide who becomes Repentia, who gets entombed in the mortifiers, like that kind of thing, like that too. So, like in the fluff, like they're the deciding force. So if you fuck up bad, they'd be like, "Well, time to join the Repentia to really make up for that." And you're like, "All I did was not close the door after me," and I'm like, "Well, off you go." But I guess generally it's a great addition. I like seeing the new Secondaries character too. It's going to be really interesting to see how he fits in, or it fits in with the new range,
Absolutely,
and the new combined book, because I think this is going to be a really, I think more than Drukhari, I'm really excited to see the Mechanicus book or the AdMech book, because it's been split between so many publications for so long now, that having everything pulled in to be finally one unifying book, like before, like in 7th or 8th, where we had Codex Skitarii and then Codex AdMech, and then Codex Imperial Knights, and then everything sort of got pulled together a little bit. And then they released a bunch more stuff to go with it. And then, and now we're going to see, I think, truly what their vision for that army is going to be. And I'm pretty excited about what that is. I think it's going to be real good. And I
hope they take Knights out of it, to be honest. Like, I hope that's not a part of the book, because they should be their own faction.
I hope it's like they did in the Warzone Hard-On, where like it's a stratagem to add keywords to Knights, or something
that'd be cool.
Similar to that, right? Because I mean that works. But yeah, well, lots of cool stuff coming. We are going to take a quick break. I think we're going to cut to Innes, who's going to hit us with some more getting good to soft beats. And then we're going to be right back, and I want to respond. We got a YouTube reply who took some issues with some of the things I said on one of our Warzone Charadon reviews. So we'll be right back.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Lo-Fi Beats to Get Good To. I'm Innes Wilson, and this week I'm here to talk to you about how to pick a new army when your primary focus is developing as a player. A question a lot of people will ask is, I'm trying to get better at 40k, what army should I play? And it's not a question that has an easy answer, because obviously collecting an army is a very personal thing. You're always going to want to play an army that looks good to you, one that you're going to enjoy painting, and one that has a playstyle that really just vibes with you. And that's important, but there are also factors to consider when you're purely focusing on development. I personally own a few armies that I bought just because they were good, and I don't really like them. I don't think I've added to them since I bought them, but I have armies that I bought because they were good at the time. And that's something that is a hurdle to get over, and if you're looking to be really competitive, it's something that you might want to start looking into. But just to focus purely on, I'm trying to get better at the game, how do I pick a new army that's going to let me do that? And the things that I would say to that are, there's kind of a spectrum of armies that will do all the lifting for you, to armies that will do none of the lifting. And armies that do none of the lifting are the ones that are really bad, and armies that do all the lifting for you are armies that are really, really good. So the top of the meta, whatever the best things in the game are now, will generally be easier to play. Just because you've got so much raw power in your list, you don't have to worry too much about it. What I generally recommend is picking an army that is somewhere in the mid-tier region and has a very high focus on the skill you're looking to develop. So for right now, for example, if you were looking to develop a strong ability to play melee, you might consider looking at Tyranids or Chaos Space Marines rather than Death Guard or Harlequins, which have a very high focus on it and are very powerful armies, just because the skills they teach you won't necessarily be as transferable because you've got the army doing so much of the lifting for you just in its raw power. Having a weaker army will mean that you as a player will have to play better. You will have to make your tools do more for you than the book says they should be doing. And that's really where skill as a player comes from, because then you can take those transferable tools and be like, I know how to play this army really well, and I learned how to do all this combat jank. And then you get to apply it to every army you play, which could be a top tier army. And then you get to say, okay, I know how the game works, I know how it works at its fundamentals, and I can apply that across the board. So in previous editions, my go-to recommendation, or in 8th edition specifically, was always Genestealer Cults, because they were good, but not great for most of the edition, and they really taught you how to be very finessey as a combat player. Now, I would recommend, something that's not Space Marines as a combat army, and probably not Dark Eldar as well, just based on the way their rules are looking. If you're looking at a middle tier shooting army, you might try something like an Iron Hands Dread list that will really teach you how to get the most out of a very small amount of units that have a lot of shooting power, but need protection and need to be maneuvered carefully. And that's what you're really looking for, is an army that will teach you transferable skills, rather than an army that's just going to win games for you. And just to finally cap off again, this is a very difficult hurdle to overcome. If you are looking at a price barrier or anything like that, and you are trying to figure out, I need to make sure that the army I buy I can play for 2, 3, 4 years, don't do this. This is not advice for you. This is advice for the person who already has 3 or 4 armies, and they're like, I want a 4th or I want a 5th as a hobby project, but I also want it to be one that I can, or not necessarily as a hobby project, I want something that I can practice on. I want something that will make me a better player. And if you're playing on TTS, or if you are looking at buying a new army specifically for this purpose, this is the advice you should follow: is pick a mid-tier army that has a high focus on the skill that you are looking to develop, and then work on the fundamentals of the game, so that you are not being held back by your army, because you don't want to be playing a game where it doesn't matter what you do, your army is just so fundamentally weak that it's not going to do anything for you, like GSC now. And you don't want an army that's so strong that you will never know if you're actually getting better at the game or if it's just the army being really good. That's the kind of balance you want to hit there, and bounce it off your friends, see what's filling a gap in the meta, borrow an army if you have to for a couple of games, and then commit after that. Don't just jump into the deep end with a brand new army just because you think you want to play its style or get better at its style, but have it as a consideration in the back of your head. If you're really looking at getting better, play armies that are mid-tier in the skill you want to get better at. Alright guys, thanks very much. Back to John and Danny to, I assume, whinge about centaurs.
The rest of the show will not be centaur based. Just something I want to point out there. I know when Inna sent this to me, he said it should be right up your street. Play bad armies, consider it validating or something. And then he's like, I actually said play medium armies, but bad armies is a better headline. So just grabbing those headlines out there. What's your take on that, Danny?
Well, I mean, okay, so I had a lot of armies. So I had a lot of armies like when I started playing this, like when I started taking this game a little bit more seriously. And I think the army that really helped me to kind of understand like what different things do was Drukhari, like when I started playing them in 3rd edition. Well, I guess it was 4th edition at that point in time. I started playing them. I played them pretty heavily. Man, that army was super hard to play and super janky. So when I was actually able to win games, it felt super rewarding, and I really got a lot of good experience in the game from that. Like positioning was super important. I managed to pull off some good tricks that I had to win because that's all the army had. But yeah, it was. I think playing not the highest tier army is probably a really good is a great way to get good, and playing like a medium tier army is a good way to like win some games, but also learn something and really get better at the fundamentals of 40K.
Yeah. So I mean, I would say like it didn't really finally click for me recently until I started Death Guard last year as a soul army. And I mean, they weren't necessarily the worst at the time. But generally I find any army that forces you to be cognizant of ranges, buffs, auras, and building around that makes you a better player. And makes you kind of think about it more. And I have actually started trying to branch out to other armies that aren't great right now. As a way of being like, okay, so I can do this with Death Guard. Is that purely because my rules are newer? I have some secondaries that I can take, or is it like generally from a place of better skill? So if I'm trying to reach out and get like a considerably worse army to flex some of those brain power muscles to try, be like, okay, so if I really enjoy armies with auras and buffs and stacks, what's a weaker army I can play so I can improve on that? Because right now, like with the armies I'm playing, if I lose one or two key things, I'm kind of boned. So kind of really getting those repetitions in with things that are a little weaker makes me better with my main army.
Yeah, and another thing I'd like to that's a great point, John. I totally agree with that. Another point that I'd like to add on to that is, and this is maybe a little controversial for our podcast, but maybe play a different game. And like that just kind of stretches your. No, I mean like not in that you suck and you shouldn't play 40K anymore because you're bad at 40K. So like just pick a different game, please. What I mean by that is like stretch your muscles in an interesting way, and maybe that's taking a step in a different direction and trying out a different game and then coming back. Because like 40K is something you'll always play, right? But like I know that I played War Machine for a while, and that really helped with model placement for me because it like they have that game, and 40K didn't really have this as much, but aura placement was like model placement for auras and things like that was super important. And so when I came back to 40K and that was a thing, I was so good at it. I was so good at double checking like all my ranges and everything else all the time. And that really helped me. And Malifaux really helped me kind of concentrate on objectives over killing my opponent. Because like there were games that I play of that where I just blast my opponent right off the table, and that just doesn't work in 40K. And so really kind of like refreshing. Oh yeah, it's good to just play the mission and win that way. Like that's a way better way to win, and it's more consistent. So, yep. But also you could play a mid-tier army. That's another good way to do it.
Or a Gene Stealer cult, whatever works.
Yeah, or just a bad army, John.
See,
cool. You can do that too.
See, I'm just doing it before they get a book and turn really good again, so I can be like, well, I've been playing them since they were bad guys, like 3 months ago.
Pre-bandwagoning,
and I'm like, this picture is hurtful, and I'm on it. So something I said in one of our last videos, which was the review we did of the Cult of Strife rules from Warzone Hard On, rubbed a few people the wrong way, which, I obviously as a super popular person who never irritates anyone in the world and generally gets on with everyone, was surprising to me. But it all came from the fact that before we started our review, I sort of addressed people complaining that there was a supplement to a codex being released on the same day as the codex.
Okay, what did the babies say, John?
So I think our take on it was obviously with COVID and shipping delays, this wasn't supposed to come out the same day as the Drukhari codex. That's just kind of where it landed. We also said things like these are optional rules. You really don't have to use them. And then we pointed out that each of the different things in there, so like the AdMech stuff, the Death Guard stuff, the Drukhari stuff, is very flavorful and makes you adjust your army in a way that turns it from the way the main book was meant to be. So the Cult of Strife changes your force from a Drukhari force to a Cult of Strife force, which plays very differently. The Terminus S force changes your force to something that's very different than a standard Death Guard force. So it's just giving you more options. So I say we go over this thing. Mainly, it's broken down into 5 points.
Holy shit! For real, someone made a 5-point comment on YouTube.
They put more effort into that than our video. If you can see what we did.
We put virtually 0 effort, so of course you did.
Of course. So, the first point. Okay, let's face it. No one likes a complainer in life, but customer complaints, yummy, keep them coming. It's one of the main ways a business game hobby can continuously improve. If people don't complain, or most or let a company know their thoughts and feelings on their products, plans, and directions, how are they supposed to know if customers are fully satisfied?
Oh man, I have so many things to say to this.
I would say the reason I think Danny and I'm going to speak for you, react so viscerally to this is because generally there's no constructive criticism to this. It's all just viscerally negative. From a very small population. Like competitive players make up like 10% of the total 40K market. So yeah, if we think that half of competitive players are complaining, if you have 5% of your customer base yelling at you at something, you're not going to think it's a bad thing because 95% agree with you. But Danny, you were saying before I talked for you.
No, I mean, that's exactly it. It's not constructive at all. Like, what are they supposed to take from this? Like, there should be more rules in the codex. Like, I don't know I don't know where you want me to go with. Like, there's nothing there for them to act on.
So, like, my thing for this is just because the different forces in there do change army construction for those specific armies so drastically, then it does befit a new release. If it was just bonus stratagems or bonus relics, then yeah, it should just be lumped in with the main book. But again, all of these forces allow you to construct your army in such a different way.
Well, wait, hold on. So the Cult of Strife is just stratagems and relics and warlord traits.
Well,
so
my army's different.
That being said, like, Jesus Christ, John. That being said, like, okay, you know what? I'll hear out the rest of this guy's this. Sorry, I assume it's a guy. I shouldn't assume that. Like, I'll hear out the rest of this person's complaints about why they feel like this is such a terrible thing for them to do.
Okay. Number 2, shutting down complaints just because you don't share them isn't really in the spirit of customer service, and any business that thinks and acts like that wouldn't last long. Bootlickers can only get you so far. Well,
we are not GW.
I will say, 1, we're not GW. 2, we're entering the 5th year of this podcast, which I've been on since the start. Danny, you've been on since the first year. And then full time for the past 2.5 years, I think now. 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much like that.
Sounds right.
And I wouldn't necessarily say we're bootlickers, as we're not actively looking for things to hate. And we understand.
We're just not negative.
Yeah.
Like, we try not to take like a negative perspective on everything. But okay, sure, we're bootlickers. Yeah, cool.
Number 3, it doesn't fit their usual business model of having a supplement being released at a later point in time, giving a player something to look forward and spend on again. So it's out of order. Which again,
oh Jesus Christ,
COVID.
Sorry, you got your shit early. Fuck.
COVID. And if we look at it, Death Guard was supposed to be December. I believe Drukhari was originally slated for January, which would have put the supplement at March, which between the two, where if you have a book with Death Guard, Drukhari, Admech, and Knights spread out across that time, this supplement comes right in the middle of the release schedule, which sort of makes sense. Gives you a preview of where Knights and Admech are going. Adds a Death Guard and
Drukhari. Or maybe Admech's already out. Who knows?
Maybe. Who knows? Because global shipping got fucked up, but these orders go in advance, like months and months down the road, and all of a sudden you have someone calling you and be like, hey, we have like 100,000 of these books in a warehouse. And we're like, whoa, let's hold off for 2 months because we don't want to release stuff too close together.
Right.
Point the 4th. Having these two books out at the same time when a player is sitting down to build a list with potentially some rules released in another book that could work with and maybe not being able to afford the extra dollars, pounds, euros, just to use a single page back and front with more rules in it is just plain annoying. Maybe if you're getting free books sent to your door, it might be hard to empathize with other players in this situation.
No, I don't empathize with you. I had to buy Warzone Chardon, or Hard On. And like,
I had to buy Codex Drukhari.
Right. So like, yeah, like I'm still spending money on this stuff, and I would still buy it even if I wasn't getting the books for free, some of the books for free.
Yep.
I would still buy this stuff. And you also don't have to use this if you don't want to. Like there's nothing that GW is doing to like force your hand into using this supplement. You don't have to use it.
There is this feeling of you owe me rules. It's
crazy entitlement.
There's an entitlement to this hobby now. And I will say, do we get review copies of books? Sure, we do. That's no secret. And again, thank you for sending it. Thank you for people who watch it and the feedback we get, and it's generally very positive. If you look at this from a purely kind of time hours perspective, we received our copy of Warzone Hard On and the Drukhari Codex for review Friday at 4 p.m. We were told we can release information about it Saturday at 2 a.m. Danny, we both work full-time jobs. This might surprise some of you, but this is not our careers because we're not very good at it. So that's
but we try so hard.
we try so hard. But it's very small turnaround time. So I think between filming, editing, uploading, it was like 5 hours total. So it was very minimal that we put into it. But if you still look at that, if the total value of those books is about $100 US, which for our minimal time we put into those two reviews, which again, it was some great information. It was purely from like a lighting, sound, editing point that it wasn't great this time. That's $20 an hour for editing, filming. Me going to Danny's at like 8 o'clock on a Saturday night to film till midnight, to go to work at 5 the next morning, to edit at 2 p.m. the next day.
Let me tell you about overtime for effectively $10 an hour for each of us. Is pretty rough.
It's pretty rough. But again, we're very blessed to be in the situation we are, so we don't complain about it.
We are. I get that.
And I get that it is nice that we are trusted with these things, and we do get to make the content that we get. So again, I kind of see your point in that, where maybe it's a little harder, where we do get that, and our complaint is, oh man, we have to make content. Ugh. But at the same time, there's nothing forcing you to buy these books.
And we do this because we like to make the content, because it's something that we really enjoy. So it has nothing to do with, like, I think that we would do book reviews and that kind of stuff regardless of whether we got.
Oh yeah, and we did before.
But James, please don't stop sending us stuff.
James,
we really like it.
Before James started sending us stuff, we did reviews on codexes and books that we got, and we went and bought them. Okay, last point here. New players that might not know anything about how Games Workshop releases their books might look unfavorably at having to spend more for those 2 extra pages. Counterpoint: why are you confusing a new player with a supplement that they don't need to learn how to play the game?
Yep.
So if you have if you're a professional video game player, say Overwatch is your jam. If you have someone who has an interest in playing Overwatch, you'd be like, hey man, that's not fair. They have to buy this $5,000 computer, this special mouse with programmable keys. They have to buy all this stuff to go with it too. It's not really good, easy access. Are you going to be as good as one of these pro players if you don't have that stuff? No. You can still play, still have fun.
Right.
None of this is stuff you have to have. And then the roundup point is that as players, fans, and supporters, these kind of stupid things don't maximize the quality of experience and don't help with the brand's image, which is either long-term players that are fully invested in the hobby or new players that might want other people to join in the fun with them. Might spot and say, that seems a bit of a ripoff to expect me to fork out more money to complete a codex on the same day so I can fully enjoy the initial building stage of the hobby. Fair enough, with COVID, etc., it's outside of the norm at the moment, but that is the reason that could be specifically addressed or countered. And again, to that I say, none of this is essential. You don't need Warzone Charadon to complete your Drukhari army. You can build a perfectly functional, great Drukhari army without Warzone Charadon.
You don't even have to play Cult of Strife. You can play one of the other 2 witch cults that are detailed, or make your own witch cult out of the rules in the book. Like, you have lots of options here, and this is just another one. And if you want to pay through the paywall, go ahead. If you want to try out the rules, I mean, there's a reason why we show the full pages of the book on our on our reviews. Like, so check it out and see if there's something that you want to spend the money on, so that, like, if you're going to an official tournament, you have the physical copy of the rules with you.
So I think, like, I mean, he has a lot of points that are brought up, and this is why I wanted to bring it up. And again, I don't know the gender, so yeah, they bring up a lot of points that are repeated quite often to us, which is kind of why I wanted to bring it up here. That pointed out, one, thank you for your feedback. If that's how you're feeling, great. I really appreciate you bringing it up.
Sure.
But one of the downsides, and we talked about it with Val 2 episodes ago, I think. Holy cow, it's been so long. We're doing too much content, Danny.
Was it 2 episodes ago?
2 or 3 or something, yeah. But when we're talking to Val about the rise of Warhammer community, and kind of, there's a real big fear of missing out in the community now.
Yeah, FOMO. Yep.
There's big FOMO, and that produces this reaction where, well, I have to buy this book, or I have to buy this thing. What if I don't have it? And all this is like extra fun rules to have. Like, if you go to Art of War stream, they're not playing Call of Strife all the time, are they? Are they playing Terminus Est all the time? No. I mean, they might do it the first time to see what it is, but they're not must-have rules. They're really cool. They're really flavorful. There's some really cool Crusade stuff in there. But again, I think we as a community have to get over this FOMO. Otherwise, we end up with, John cleaning out his thing, be like, why the hell do I own an open box of Helverins? Like I've literally never collected a Knights army, and I have enough Knights for a Knights army. And that's because I'm like, oh, it's so cool, I got to have it. Let's get past that. Pick 2 armies. Stick to it. Don't be like me. But now I have to sell all my
Eldar. Be like John.
No, and now I have to sell all my Eldar and Tyranids.
Oh,
well, I don't have to. I'm choosing to, because I'm never going to use them again. I have too much fun with a different style of play.
Okay.
Anything else you want to add on there, Danny?
No. I mean, I appreciate that you took the time to post some feedback. I do. It's just your points were bad.
It's okay to miss out. I didn't get a Void Shield generator first time around. It's not a big deal. I still play the game. New players don't have access to some models. It's okay. We'll survive. It's on us as a community to be welcoming, not as GW as a company to be welcoming.
Yes.
Let's take a little bit of personal responsibility on that. We got a couple new Patreons this month, both of whom loved the following commercial. So we're going to play it. We're going to enjoy some really popular ads, and then we'll be right back. We're going to talk about a specific mission from the GT pack and how to get good at it.
Earl Hagen was a legend. In 1960, he whistled his way into Hollywood and into our hearts. Decades later, he made a comeback, lending those lustrous lips in the 1980s to such bands as the Scorpions, Guns N' Roses, and Pat Benatar. A half-century after his humble beginnings, he's at it again. This time without cumbersome musical accompaniment, he'll have you wetting your whistle and whistling along. His new album, Earl Whistles Disney, is sure to be a hit with all generations. Order now and receive a bonus album, Earl Whistles More Shit, a collection of previously unreleased material of Earl's favorite songs through the years. On this bonus album, he demonstrates his newly mastered technique of inward whistling. Order yours today on compact disc or double-length cassette. Also available at fine retailers such as Walgreens, CVS, and participating Sam Goody stores. Earl Whistles Disney. Buy it today.
Classic and very popular.
An excellent commercial.
Peter from NGC 40K recorded us for that years ago, and I think it's one of the few that I use to this day just because I enjoy his whistling talents.
He's a good whistler, man.
He's very good, very good. Okay, so we've got some popularity about our opinions, and that scares me a little. But hey, let's keep it going. We've actually started providing tactical advice. I think Innes has inspired us to be like, well, shit, he can't be the only one who's smart on this podcast.
Well, yeah, if Innes can do it, then anybody can do it.
Exactly. So. I think that's the Team Scotland motto for WTC.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So we're going to go through mission by mission from the GT tournament packet 2020, and then hopefully by the end of this 2021 will release, and we'll have 9 more episodes of content coming through. Perfect. It just works. This is pack plus content, Danny. So we're going to talk about the first mission from the GT pack, a retrieval mission. And the wonderful narrative, the battlefield is strewn with discarded equipment, supplies, and other detritus of war that for various reasons you wish to recover. You must recover as many of these vital objectives as you can without sustaining unacceptable casualties in the process. So this mission, you're the bitch, is going to go clean up the war that someone else had.
It's like you're going to go pick up some trash and maybe some surplus supplies.
Don't
you got
die.
A crate full of MREs, some of which have been opened. Who knows? But they're probably still good, right? Maybe.
Don't die while doing it as well.
That's right. So retrieval, the retrieval mission is kind of hammer and anvil style deployment, and that means that using the short board edges as your backboard edge, and so you're deployed 24 inches away from your opponent. There are 6 objectives in this mission. There are 4 in no man's land and 1 pretty deep in your own deployment zone. This mission has the take and hold progressive objective, which means it's a hold 1 for 5, hold 2 for 10, and hold more than your opponent for 15 points. And the mission-specific secondary is minimized losses. This is but one battle in a greater war. If we are to consolidate our gains and prosecute the longer war, you must ensure that the lives of your warriors are not carelessly thrown away. So this is minimized losses. At the start of the battle, add up the number of units in your army. This is your army strength. If a unit is splits to form 2 more individual units during the battle, then immediately increase your army strength accordingly. If a unit merges with another unit, then decrease your strength accordingly as well. At the end of the battle, add up how many units from your army are still left on the battlefield, including all units embarked within transports, but including all units that have been added to your army during the battle. If the total is 75% or more of your army's total strength, score 15 victory points. If it's less than 75%, but is 50% or more of your army's strength, then score 10. And if your army is less than 50%, but is still more than 25, score 5 victory points. So that is the retrieval mission. John, what do you think about retrieval?
So I like retrieval a lot. You start with the ability to absolutely hold one objective. So there is absolutely no way turn 2 you should not be scoring at least 5 points on this. And you have those other 2 within really easy reach. They're
about 4 inches outside of your deployment zone.
Looking at it, they're about 4 inches outside your deployment zone. So even poxwalkers or your slowest troops can make it there and hold that. So there's really no reason why you can't be earning 10 points turn 2 for this. And looking at maximizing points and the way this board is laid out, I think the path to victory in this primary is how well can you remove troops from your opponent's objectives. Because you have to think that by turn 2, you are both holding 3. So while you're both holding 10, you're denying those final 5 points to both of you, where some well-placed shots can really, really screw over your opponent.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just making sure you're holding as many of the objectives as possible is always a good game plan. It does make the 6 objective mission makes things like domination a little bit tougher because you can't only have to hold 3, you have to hold 4. So that's kind of tough. Also, since your opponent does have a deeper deployment zone, it means that shooty armies are going to have a little bit more of an advantage in this mission, but they do have to still move up to mid-table to get those objectives that are just outside of their deployment zone. But they don't have to move further than 1 inch out of their deployment zone to control an objective in the midfield. So they may be okay with just taking 40 points all game, like by just trying to hold 2 objectives. That just might be the way that they try and play the game, which is not a bad way.
And I think definitely my play in this mission, at least, is I want multiple units on each objective to really I want to ensure that I'm holding more. So if you have like a single
Correct.
unit on there, that is bad times because that unit should be a priority to get shot off. Because anything that your opponent can do to cost you points in this mission is something they're going to try and do.
Oh yeah, big time. So I think I think most people, depending on how badly they're getting whooped, are probably going to score 40 points on primary. Just because it's really easy to score 40 points on primary when you have 6 objectives on the table. Good secondaries for this mission. Let's talk about those.
Yeah, let's talk about minimize losses. It's a real interesting one, and
Sure.
There's a couple of ways you can really game this army dependent. But it really rewards, I think, unless it's kind of like a really blowout game, there's not a lot of people getting 15 victory points for this mission.
Oh, okay.
Or I'm completely wrong in this because I can see by like I got the standard McDevitt. Oh, okay.
I think if your army concentrates on really tough, a few tough durable units and has a lot of characters, then they can really play the secondary very well. For instance, like I'm thinking of like my Dark Angels army is really good at this, secondary, because I can lose all the ancillary units and I just have to keep my characters safe. And it's going to be really tough and so this stacks up really well with While We Stand We Fight, because you're like 2 objectives, both effectively trying to do the same thing is very powerful. So just trying to make sure that those units stay alive and those are a significant number of your points. I think that's a really good way to go.
So who should avoid this secondary?
MSU kind of style armies. So if you have like a lot of little units that are really easy to kill, like you're playing Genestealer Cult or Drukhari or maybe Craftworld Eldar, depending on what your build is, I think those could be really tough. This could be a really tough matchup for you. Or a really tough secondary to achieve for you is what I mean. Guard would be another one I would avoid.
Yeah, just anything with like weak troops that you can really easily clear, right?
Sure. But that being said, right, if they kill 9 guys out of a squad, they've still gotten 0 points for this if you pass your leadership or if that's the last guy left after morale. So, like, if you can hide that guy for the rest of the game, which is not super hard to hide one dude on a table, you could really maximize this pretty well because you have a lot of units that can kind of soak up the losses that you're going to take.
And it's really forcing your opponent to make some difficult choices of are they going to try and maximize their primary points or are they going to try and deny you your secondary? Like what is best for them in that moment? So yeah, for sure. It's a super interesting mission for that.
So I think in this mission, other ones that are really good, I think Deploy Scramblers is a really solid secondary because they have that super deep deployment zone for them to try and like screen you out on. I think it's hard to do that in this mission.
Especially because they're driving you to the center of the table to get those other objectives too, right?
Exactly. So it's hard to screen that out. I think Banners is a good one on this mission too because you can walk up and do Banners and do 3 Banners on turn 1. And that'll get you, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. So that'll get you 15 points if you can just keep your banners on your side of the table, which is pretty easy, honestly, I think. That's pretty solid. I mentioned While We Stand We Fight is a good one to combo up with that mission secondary. I think Grind Them Down. If your opponent takes that secondary for minimized losses, may not be the worst play. Because they're trying to minimize what they can do. You're trying to kill their units, so you might as well get points for trying to kill more units of theirs than they kill of yours. I think Engage on All Fronts is a lot better than Linebreaker, but that is a deep deployment zone, so Linebreaker might be a decent choice in this one as well. But Engage on All Fronts is a lot easier to achieve, especially since like the enemy's objectives are nowhere near the center of the table, and there's not a central objective. As far as racial secondaries, I think that the Necron one, Purge the Vermin, is really good on this one because you can keep them out of your side of the table and score a lot of points on that.
I think Drukhari have like a similar one as well, right?
Yeah, Drukhari have almost the exact same secondary, so that's a good one for them. Ancient Machineries is good for Necrons here as well, because you have to designate 3 objectives outside of your deployment zone, and so these objectives are right next to you, so you can literally walk up in action and do that every single turn on one of the 2 objectives that you have, and you're going to get 15 points on that if you can keep your unit alive every time you action. So, and keep the enemy away from that objective. So that's a really good one too.
Yep. And I think just speaking from my experience, that Spread the Sickness is a good one for this as well, because you're pretty much guaranteed 9 from that. And if you can drive off, which you should be trying to drive them off the other objectives anyway, you can easily get 15.
And Space Marines have one too, where if you kill an enemy off of the objective, I think they get 3 points for that, something like that. I think they have that one. Maybe that's a Space Wolf one that I'm thinking of. Anyway, there's so many good, and there's definitely a bunch of Marine ones that'll be pretty solid. The Dark Angels one, where you have to have a unit that sits on an OBSEC unit that sits on an objective all game, is pretty freaking great for this mission, because you can just sit in your deployment zone with an OBSEC unit and be like, okay, come get me, because I am moving.
How do you rate this mission compared to the other ones here?
This mission is pretty fun. I definitely like playing this one. I like 6 objective missions. I think those ones are really cool. Not quite as much as I like 5 objective missions. Those I think are the sweet spot. But it's pretty fun. I give this one a 4 out of 5.
Oh man, I was gonna go for 4.5, but I guess we'll
stay with 4 Gauss flares out of 5.
4 Gauss. Okay, well we're gonna go to 3.5. 2 combi bolters out of 5, but it has double the shots, so it's the same number of stars. We're going to take a quick break. Like I said, I think both of us really enjoy this mission. It gives you some really nice tactical options of denying and gaining points.
I just want to point out how proud of you I am right now, because you knew how many shots a Gauss Flayer had.
I know.
And, that makes me really happy. Thank you.
Well, someone like in my COVID bubble only takes fucking Necrons every time that I play them.
Don't worry, dude. You'll get to play against Dark Angel soon enough, and you're going to love every second of it.
Oh, boy. Can I wait till all my other Death Shroud come in?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
Except for the box that I'm keeping here hostage from you.
God damn, that's right. You do have half of them. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. And speaking of Drukhari, Danny's going to take us through his idea of a great Drukhari list after this incredibly stable and not at all overdubbed advert.
Dude, I'm the best. I took first place at another tournament.
First off, stop with the thunder and lightning. You don't impress me. And second, let me check out the BCP rankings. And I don't see you on there.
What?
Your TO needs to download the Best Coast Pairings app and run events on it. After the event, the results are uploaded into BCP rankings, and the best part, it's easy and free.
But I play multiple game systems.
No big deal. The BCP app can be used for any game. A ton of events every weekend are using it, from major international tournaments to local stores. And now that it's available on Android devices, you're going to have some serious competition.
There can be only one.
BCP Rankings is a fun and exciting way to measure how you or your team stack up. No matter what you play, your score goes to an overall ranking, or compete to be the best in a game, a circuit, a region, or the world.
Download the app or visit www.bestcoastpairings.com for more info.
Best Coast Pairings.
Are you the best?
All right, we're back. What a great advert that in no way overdubs for no reason halfway through a sentence.
Yeah.
Danny, you mentioned earlier, longtime Drukhari player, first-time Drukhari caller, starting in 3rd edition, so almost 20 years of playing with glass hammers. We did a real in-depth review of the Dark Elder or the Drukhari Codex up on our YouTube channel. We both really like the book. While you really like it, I'm like, I don't want to play that. I don't want to play into that. But yeah, what are some of, like, we didn't really have time to go through some lists or things we were thinking. What's your takeaway list from Drukhari or Codex Drukhari?
Good question.
Thank you. I do that.
So my takeaway list is I'm going to do Triple Patrol. I decided I wanted to do homunculus covens. I wanted to do I want to do Cabalites and I want to do Witches and I wanted to have all that stuff. Plus, I wanted Incubi in my list. So I'm pretty stoked with the list that I got to make here.
And then with the new rules in Codex Drukhari, those 3 patrols cost no command points, correct?
Correct. Which is weird because I also get refunded the cost of one of the patrols. So it actually ends up being 14 command points.
Huh. I feel that'll be FAQ'd.
Yeah, I really feel like that's not a thing. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. That is an interpretation. I don't think that's the correct one, but anyway. So I guess I should start. And the reason I decided I wanted to do triple patrol as well is because I really wanted to take Drazar. He's such a cool character, and you have to take triple patrol. We don't have to take triple patrol, but you can't do a real Space Raiders detachment and still have Drazar be your warlord because you have to max out your HQ slots, getting the homunculus, the Archon, and the succubus. So anyway, the list that I came up with is I've got my Cabalite detachment, which is an Archon with Blast Pistol and Husk Blade. He's got the Jin Blade. And then I gave him the Always Strikes First, the Always Strikes Last Warlord trait. That seems really good.
Yeah, from someone who has a thing that does that all the time, it is real good.
You just have to be in engagement range. Like, you just, whatever unit he's fighting gets strikes last. Like, super cool. And he's got 1 million attacks at great strength and 3 flat damage and. Then it's also got Drazar. Then I've got 3 units of 5 Cabalite Warriors with Blaster Blast Pistol. So they ride around I'll get to that in a minute. And this is all black card, I'm sorry. So this gives me access to Vect. If I wanted to do the Aura, I could, but I'm not doing that on this Warlord trade.
Which new Vect, new Vect, which is one of the major changes to this book here.
Dude, it's great.
Yeah, so maybe you want to describe what new Vect does for those monsters who don't want to give us YouTube ad revenue.
Yeah, and it's a long video for you to watch for the whole thing. But more or less, in a nutshell, Vect is a 0 command point stratagem. Use it after your opponent resolves a stratagem that they have. For the rest of the game, that stratagem costs 1 additional command point. So it just lets you kind of nuke something very intrinsic to your opponent's army, something they're probably going to use more than once. So like if you're playing against Space Marines, like getting rid of transhuman, or not getting rid of transhuman, but making it cost more resources is very powerful. So that's a great ability.
This really makes you rethink your entire game plans. I know a lot of people are building armies around particular stratagems and reusing them and using them over and over again.
Right.
To all of a sudden, these are now cost 50, 30% more. That's some crazy resource management you're pushing on them.
Absolutely. Yes. And then I've got a unit, a Court of the Archon, which is something you probably have never seen on the table before in your entire life. I've got 1 Court of the Archon that's 4 Urgles. And Urgles are a 16-point model that has 3 wounds and a 5+ feel no pain, and they have a 6-up invul, which decreases to a 5-up invul on turn 5. Turn 2. Turn 2 because it's turn 3. Sorry. Oh my God, I'm still okay. So it's a 6-up invulnerable save that increases to a 5-up invulnerable save on turn 2 because these guys are Blackheart and they count as being 1 higher round from power from pain, which is great. And then I have in this detachment I have 4 Raiders. Oh, sorry. There's also 1 unit of Incubi. I have 4 Raiders and 2 Venoms with double splinter cannons. So Cabalites will ride around and wherever I need them to. I'll probably keep Venoms for, and they all have Grizzly trophies for -2 leadership bubble, which just helps to remove things and make your opponent's combat attrition a little bit worse. And the Raiders, I've got Dark Lances on them because with Cabal the Blackheart, I get to reroll a miss for every unit, so they get to reroll a miss on their Dark Lance. So for a 1-shot weapon, that's pretty solid. And then I've got my Witch Cults, which is Succubus, who's a Master Succubus, and she's got what's the name of that Warlord trait? Anyway, her Warlord trait is whenever she rolls a 6 to hit, she does the damage of the weapon she has in mortal wounds to your opponent. And then she has the Triptech Whip, so she has like 10 attacks because of Adrenal Light on the charge. 10 attacks that hit on 2s and wound on 2s at -3 AP that are doing 2 flat damage. Anytime I roll a 6 to hit, it does 2 mortal wounds. And this is a poison 2+ weapon, so if your opponent is a vehicle or something like that, I'm only wounding them on 6s. But if I roll a 6 to hit, you're taking 2 mortals anyway, so with 10 attacks, there's a good chance I'm going to do 4 mortal wounds to whatever I'm fighting anyway.
Can't really transhuman past mortals.
Nope, really can't. And then I've got a unit of 10 Blood Brides, and they have I paid the command point to give the leader the relic whip from the hotly contested Cult of Strife.
You paid $60 to win this game.
That's exactly what I did in this scenario. $60 so that you can't fall back ever from combat. There's an upgrade to an agonizer that you can take where if you hit your opponent, they can't fall back with that unit. So hopefully I'll charge 2 things. She can whip them and make sure they stay, and then the rest of the witches can like dice up whatever else they're fighting and just beat the crap out of it. And so I gave those witches the +1 strength upgrade. And then I have 2 units of 10 Hellions that are just stock, and I gave them the +1 strength upgrade on them as well, so they're strength 5. And then my final detachment is a Dark Creed detachment. I decided to go with Dark Creed over Dark Technomancers because like I don't want to use the Flamer trick because I feel like it's abusive. And so I don't really want to like bank my game plan on doing something that I don't feel like is going to be around very much. And so I've kind of made my racks into like objective holders. So I have 1 10-man unit of the Haemocytes, which are the upgraded racks. And I have a Master Homunculus. He's got he doesn't have the Warlord trait. So he does have the extra relic though. So he's gonna have the relic that he can toss from Dark Creed where he like takes away your OBSEC and that kind of stuff. And then I've got 2 units of 5 racks and 1 unit of 10 Haemocytes, and then another unit of 5 Incubi. So my plan is with this is I want to take raiders that have 5 racks and 5 Cabalites, and I want to throw those up the table. The Cabalites can blast stuff, and the racks actually are going to get out as soon as I can, because they have a 12-inch aura of an additional -1 leadership, and then also you're going to be a -1 on your combat attrition test. So when you fail that leadership test, you're going to be a -3, and you're going to be an extra -1 on combat attrition. So if you're not Marines, you're going to be hurting for certain.
I like that. It rhymes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But yeah, overall, and there's 5 more Incubi in this detachment as well. So I have 3 units of 5 Incubi. So I think it fights an assault. I think it shoots okay. It's not the greatest shooting army in the world or anything like that with 4 Dark Lances. But it does fight really well, and it's very fast. And it kind of gives me some options with the 10-man Hellion units to kind of avoid blast a little bit and hide them a little bit easier, and then just make sure that on turn 2 they can advance and charge and really get in there. But I don't know. We'll see. It definitely looks like a fun list for me to play. I don't think it's like the greatest Dark Eldar list, but I think it's definitely got some ability to take the board. It's got some ability to hold objectives in the rear. And I think it's got some objective, or I think it definitely has the ability to dice your opponent up in melee, because all these units are like the Incubi, the Witch, the Blood Brides, the characters are all extremely killy and will wreck your day if they make it in.
So how do you combat, like if you come up against this army, say, how do you combat that? Like what are your priorities on stopping?
So I think what you do is you kind of have to set up traps for your opponent, right? So, and by traps, I mean you have to make situations that they have to deal with, and by that I mean they have to get out of transports, which is where they're protected. So ideally, you want to shoot down the transports as fast as you can, so that kind of peels off a layer of protection. Because otherwise, these units are not very durable. Like they're not durable. So, you want to kind of peel off those layers of protection and then shoot the shit out of them. Or if you have combat, assault them, assuming that they don't have the ability to make you strikes last. This army has 5 different ways to make you fight last in melee. Each one of the Incubi units plus Drazar can do it, and the Archon has it. So just be aware of that as a thing. Otherwise, just kind of watch your. So what I mean, and when I said traps, right? So put units on objectives in the middle of the table, and it may seem counterintuitive. Like, why would I do that? They're just going to chop me up in melee or assault me and get extra distance. Great. Then they're in your line of fire. And that's the whole idea. You want to draw them out so that you can shoot them. Like, that is entirely the way that you beat this kind of an army.
Speed bumps.
You have to be able to see them to shoot them and for them to... Anyway, so you have to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It sure does. I'm taking copious notes here. Hopefully it all comes back to bite you. But yeah, it's a really great Dark Eldar or Drukhari list that I think really speaks to how the army should be played. It's fast, it's fragile, but when it hits like a truck.
Yep.
And again, using auras, using fights last, using a lot of tricks to really protect what's a really fragile base for a lot of attacks and mortals. Holy cow. Yep. We're going to take one more break and we will be right back to wrap this up.
Do you like cookies but want something more British? Buy biscuits. Not like those you have for gravy. British biscuits. For dunking in your British tea. Stiff upper lip guaranteed. Biscuits, as recommended by Queen Liz of the Britons.
Well, Danny, we are wrapping this up here. We were going to talk to Mr. Michael Tempe, High Lord of Terra, to talk about his brand new game that will be launching soon on Kickstarter, Outward Realms. But scheduling conflicts aside, he has up at outwardrealms.com the full rule set for the game, including missions, how to play. There's some great faction focus articles in each of the 4 factions that are being shown. And hopefully we will get Michael on closer to the launch of his Kickstarter in May for some just beautiful models that he has had designed for this game. The studio armies have been painted up by, I believe, the same guy who does all of the Infinity models. So they are painted to just an amazing quality.
He is an amazing artist.
Yeah, and they look great, and it looks to be a super great kind of fast-paced game system. Go to outwardrealms.com, sign up for their email alerts so you can be kept up to the information for this. Michael knows games. He's made himself a really tight little rule set, which already has a small FAQ, so you know it's good.
That's right.
So we look forward to talking to Michael about
trying to know more.
Yeah, we look forward to talking to Michael about that more later on. Danny, if you have anything else you want to add on there?
Other than, of course, our usual plug for the Rogue Trader Network.
Hell yeah, that we're remembering now.
Dude, we're like 3 for 3 at least right now, so we're doing just fine. Let's see. So go ahead and check them out. You can listen to Michael on the High Lords of Terra podcast. You can, and they just came out with an episode that I have not listened to yet, in full disclosure, because I'm pretty sure it came out yesterday. Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. And then sorry, I just got a last minute letter of recommendation that got sent in. I got an email notification. I'm very, very happy about that. And so then we've got the Dangly Boys. Man, did you listen to Fuck, Marry, Kill like rankings of army books? It was pretty good.
It was a great episode. Yeah. We kind of spiritually went along with our rock, paper, scissors, again, making fun of the stupid ass way of ranking factions and the importance people place on it. But yeah, if you have a chance, if you can only listen to one episode of Dangly Boys, because most of the other ones are as bad as us, the Fuck, Marry, Kill episode is amazing.
Hold on. Or worse. Let's just put that out there. I want to make sure that we're rating them appropriately.
And then definitely check out, not an official member of the network, but a spiritual member, Seth the Mad Dog, leader of the Dangly Boys, the Dangliest of Boys, has his YouTube channel that he's really pushing out some amazing content on, with some great battle reports and some really amazing org tactica.
If you want to know about orcs, check out Seth the Mad Dog.
Yeah.
And then finally, the final member, the junior member, if you will, of the Road Trader Network is the NZ40 Shabal.
The Matt Gates of the Rogue Trader Network.
I'm so jealous that they get to play in tournaments. like actual honest to God tournaments.
Oh,
like,
buddy, soon. Let me tell you, I'm already looking at majors this year of traveling for once I get that second vaccine in.
Hell yeah. Same. Big same.
Big same. But yeah, for sure. Check out all of these amazing podcasts and hopefully more coming soon. Something I want to plug is we did a surprise release last week of a special episode. And look for more of those coming in. We might be streaming something on YouTube. We might be streaming. We might just release an extra episode, but more content coming from us because I've been very productive this week in creating intros and outros. I swear to God, one person questions my professionalism on video production, and I go so far over the top making animated intros and outros that I'm like, well, fuck it, we have to use it now.
Hell yeah. It looks great, though. You did an amazing job, dude.
Thank you, man. Thank you, man. I was like, I'm good at this. I know I'm good at this.
You are.
Not talking, but the production part.
No, that's what I meant.
Yeah, for sure. We got it right. But yeah, so I guess we're going to wrap this up. We'll be back maybe next week, maybe 2 weeks from now, but most likely 2 weeks from now in person where we won't have the weird Discord delay. It's going to be great. Likely we will not have a guest next episode. If it's Danny and I finally in person together, because it'll just be us bullshitting for like an hour and a half about random ass things, and I can't be more hyped for it. But if that's all we have, check out our YouTube channel, Mob Rules, Facebook, Mob Rules AK, Patreon. Don't give us money, but you can look at us there and join our Discord. It's great.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. There's way better things. You can buy a Coke for the amount of money that you could give us a month to make terrible content. But thank you for all of those who do, because we buy Cokes with that money. Or I think we figured out for like someone pointed out we could buy 8 dildos a month.
Wow.
Yeah. And still
that's quite a few dildo. That is okay. We may have dildo overload if we have 8 a month.
8 a month.
Are we using them simultaneously? Because that seems like a lot. Or just like one at a time.
90,
are we gonna get some sounders? Because that's what I'd really like.
96 inches of worm. So on that note, for Mob Rules, I've been John.
I've been Danny.
And we'll see you next time.